So we have looked at examples of how to add or subtract two fractions. But in this example, one of the numbers does not look like a fraction. 3 or -3 is the integer. So how do we add numbers like these? One looks like a fraction, the other does not look like a fraction. So the steps will still be the same. Well, there are other ways to do this problem, but we're going to follow the same steps as adding or subtracting fractions. So first step, get the same denominator. So as we discussed before, we're going to find the LCD. But because 3 or -3 does not look like a fraction, we will change it to a fraction by putting a 1 under it. So -3, we know -3 divided by 1 is still the same as -3. So by adding over 1, it doesn't change the number -3. Now they both look like fractions. In fact, integers are considered as fractions. It's just not, we can always put a 1 under to get a fractional form. So now we're going to find the LCD. And in this case, it's very easy. As we know, LCD is also what we call LCM. So we want to find, if you want to use the same way we did before, we could break down 5, which we can't. So it would just be 5. And 1, which also cannot be factored. And so in this case, the least common denominator will just be 5. We can, because usually we don't consider 1 as a prime number, so we really cannot really factor it. But if you do want to put it down a 1 as a column, and when you have 2 columns and 5 times 1, you will still get 5. Or you can just use the definition, because the least common multiple is a number such that is a number that is a multiple of both 1 and 5. As we can see, 5 is a multiple of 5. 5 is also a multiple of 1 because any number 1 goes into any number. So any number is a multiple of 5. Okay, so we found our LCD, that is 5. So next thing we want to do is to change both fractions to this fraction with the same denominator. And originally, one of the denominator is 1, the other denominator is 5. They don't match, so that's why we also have to change them. Starting with the first fraction, -3 over 1. Equals something over 5. The LCD is the number we want to get, the new denominator we want to get. By looking at them, we know that 1 times 5 equals 5. That tells us that we've got to do the same thing on the top to get an equivalent fraction. And -3 times 5 is -15. The first fraction, -3 over 1, can be changed to its equivalent fraction, -15 over 5. So similarly, we can change the second fraction, 5 over 4, 4 over 5, to the same denominator, 5. But notice that 5 is the same as 5, which means we don't really need to do anything. So we're just going to copy the top number 4. No changes because it's already 5. In the other way, what you could do is the same way as we did before, asking ourselves, like 1 times 1 number is 5, because 1 times 5 is 5. So similarly, we can ask ourselves, 5 times 1 number is 5. As we can see, 5 times 1 is 5. So we do the same operation on the top. 4 times 1 is still 4. So that doesn't really change anything. This tells us when we do, if the denominator is already the same as the least common denominator, that means you don't have to do anything. If you're going to do anything, it's just going to multiplied by 1, which is not going to change anything. So now we're going to go back to the subtraction problem. Negative 3 over 1, we're going to use its equivalent fraction that we just got right here. It's negative 15 over 5. And minus, we copy down the minus sign. And 4 over 5, we don't change it, we keep it, because the denominator is the same as the least common denominator. So now we're going to add them. Well, in this case, in fact, it's a subtraction. So instead of add, we're going to subtract. So we're still going to keep the same denominator, which is 5. And we're going to subtract the top number, numerators. Negative 15 minus 4. It gives us negative 19. And we will also want you to do one more step to move the sign in front of the number. Because negative divided by positive 5 is negative. So the answer will be negative 19 over 5. Now again, this fraction is already reduced.